Minister, you might outline to me when the various contracts to the Aran Islands and Inishbofin are coming to conclusion, but more importantly, I suppose, the planned improvements that you intend introducing to these services, because they do need improvements, and they were brought forward about 10 or 15 years ago, but they've remained static, or in case of the airing service, it regressed terribly in the last 10 years.
Thank you, Deputy, for raising this matter. As you are aware, the public service obligation status of the air service to the Aran Islands lapsed some years ago, and my department is now bringing the service back into EU public service obligation regularity compliance. The procurement process is currently underway for the new contract, and once completed, it will bring long-term certainty of service to the island communities. The existing contract for the air service to the Aran Islands will continue in the interim to ensure there is no break in service. I am confident that a successful operator for the service will be announced in the coming weeks, and that the island communities will have a better air service over the next 4 years. With regard to the ferry service to the Aran Islands, the existing contract will run to the 30th of November 2022. As with the air service renewal, my department has engaged with the island communities to discuss the current service and improvements that can be included in the tender document. The sailings timetables, the challenges for users with reduced mobility boarding and alighting from the ferry are the main issues of concern. My department will endeavour to address these issues as best it can through the tender document. Finally, the current contract for the Inishbofin ferry service will continue to the 31st of December 2024. And given that this contract will be in place for over 2.5 more years, there are no plans to commence a new procurement procedure in the near future. Thank you.
Minister, can you tell me, will there be increased frequency of PSO flights to the island under the new island airing contract? Secondly, are you planning to have increased frequency of ferry services to the islands? Because as I said in my original question, it's the way it was 15 years ago when we brought it up very rapidly to that level of service, but it was never intended that it would stay at that level forever, because there are increased demands all the time. And thirdly, is there a proposal to provide an air service to Inishbofin, which is very urgently needed?
No. Thank you. Deputy, there's no proposal for an air service to Inishbofin, and as I understand it, there's no particular demand for an air service there. Just in terms of the ferry service, there are a number of issues that have been raised by the islanders, and we have taken those on board. All contracts, as you know, are procured through a tendering process and adhere to all procurement rules and regulations, and all competitions are conducted in an open, fair and transparent manner. And as part of any contract renewal, the department seeks submissions from the island communities on how a service can be improved or could be improved. Submissions are assessed by the department and, if permissible, are included in the tender document. And if permissible, as I said, they're included in it. The Aran Islands are currently connected to the mainland by reliable and frequent air ferry and cargo services, and the ferry and heavy cargo service to Inishbofin is operating well at present. There's a number of things. They're looking for extra sailings, they're looking for disabled access, and we have consulted with the islanders, and we'll try and include as much as we can in the request for tender.
Minister, in improving the services, can you confirm whether the islanders benefit from a 20% reduction in air and ferry fares, like the rest of the country did for internal transport, for internal public transport? from the 1st of April, because, as you know, they pay some of the most expensive and they've no option but to take public transport getting in and out of the island. So can you confirm to me whether they did or they didn't benefit from the 20% decrease in public transport fares that apply to all rail and buses that are publicly contracted for?
Thank you. Thanks, Deputy. And as you're aware, the Government recently announced schemes designed to lessen the impact of the rise in the cost of living currently being experienced by all sections of our society. And one such announcement includes a €54 million package that will see a 20% average fare reduction on PSO, that's bus and rail services managed by the National Transport Authority on behalf of the Government. That scheme does not extend to other transport contracts funded by the Department of Transport or to the transport services to the offshore islands that are funded by my department. Although it is not opposed to the introduction of such a scheme for island residents, the department is concerned that retrospectively applying a fare reduction to contracts that were procured through a public procurement process may create issues for private and subsidised operators. So I'm happy to look at this, Deputy, and I have written to the AG seeking advice and clarity on the issue, and that advice will be made available to the department in the coming weeks. But just to say that the island ferries are subsidised to the tune of 50%.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Deputy. But our time for
Deputy, I said I've written to the AG and I await his advice on the issue, because you can understand we don't want to cause difficulties with any procurement process and leave us open to challenges.
Will